A lot of people ask when Maomao starts to fall for Jinshi, and honestly, the most prominent starting point might be when she begins comparing him to her adoptive father, Liumin.
Technically, he's my great uncle.
The one person she has loved, admired, and respected her whole life. I'm pretty sure many of you have seen this picture and know at least something about it. But if you haven't read the novel, you won't know why she compared him to her father or how the whole slapping then kissing his cheek moment actually went down. This scene takes place in Volume 9 after Jinshi had branded himself with Gyokyo's crest and declared Maomao as his future wife in front of the emperor. At the start of this arc, Jinshi receives an order from the emperor to travel to the west. This comes right after a letter arrives from Gyokyo, the current leader of the west. No offense, but I, along with some of the characters in this series, really hate this guy. He's truly evil, but since he's the adopted brother of Empress Gyokyo, there isn't much anyone can do. At first, they thought that this journey is a punishment for his recent reckless behavior, but it clearly wasn't, as they end up spending 3 whole volumes in the West solving mysteries and restoring the peace. And since it was a political journey, the Grand Commander Khan Lakan was asked to join, along with Liumin. But of course, Jinshi didn't let Liumin come with them. Instead, the quack doctor attended as the master physician, as a decoy/body double for Liumin, since both of them had been unique physicians in the palace. Naturally, Maomao has to join the journey too, because she needs to treat Jinshi's burn and keep the strategist in check. Or at least those were her thoughts. She wasn't happy about it. In fact, she was annoyed, but there was nothing she could do. However, in reality, Jinshi didn't trust Gyokyo from the beginning, as he tells Maomao that many people assume that they can do what others cannot. Sometimes they grow desperate enough to try anything. He also mentions that not every adherent of a sage is a sage themselves. Most of all, he points out that there is no shortage of countries that have been brought to their knees by their queen's relatives. Hearing that, Maomao got goosebumps. She asked if he should really be telling her all this. He replied that he was just speaking of possibilities. Then he raised a finger and pointed it at her. When they get desperate enough to try anything, who will they target? He asked. It hits her then that she was a weakness. Rikyu-san, the strategist former assistant, now serves Gyokyo, and he might have told him that Maomao was a part of the La clan. You thought they would come after me if I stayed in the capital? She asked. Again, it's a possibility. You know how many enemies the honored strategist has. Jinshi replied. That left Maomao quiet. As for Lahan and Liumin, Jinshi knew that they could manage on their own. With all apologies to you, Jinshi said, I needed you to come with me. I thought it would be better for you to be somewhere the strategist could see you. Not easier perhaps, but safer. He was apologizing with a pure heart, and Maomao's mind went, you this, you that, just when she thought he'd finally started using her name once in a while. She might have thanked him for his thoughtfulness, but then he added, it also happened to be quite convenient for me. This made Maomao almost cursed out loud. Instead, she took a sip of the tea and exhaled. As much as his word annoyed her, Maomao couldn't deny that Jinshi had acted out of consideration for her. He had taken into account her personal relationship, the people he needed, and where he needed them, and above all, what he thought would be best for her safety. I mean, who wouldn't melt here? But as the story moves on, we melt even more. Do you remember Princess Fuyu, the one who was given to her childhood best friend? A low-ranked official? In that beautiful yet short love story we see in Season 1? Yeah, that happened because Jinshi allowed it. And near the end of this volume, she sees Fuyu and her husband again, thanking Jinshi for all he had done for them. And the best part was that Jinshi had asked Maomao to be there so she could witness this. And Maomao instantly recognized the beautiful woman talking to Jinshi. But the only thing that bothered her was that Maomao hasn't really done anything in that whole case. When Jinshi had told her to cure Fuyu's sleepwalking, Maomao had suspected that it was just an act, but she had never told him her doubts. Did he figure it out himself? She wondered. If Jinshi had realized that she was covering for Fuyu back then, it would have made her uncomfortable. But at the same time, she was glad to see that Fuyu was happy. Not just happy, she was also carrying a baby. And again, it was all thanks to Jinshi that she had been able to return to her homeland with her husband. Plus, it seemed likely that Jinshi knew what Fuyu had been up to in the Rare Palace even back then. Maybe he's just a soft touch, Mama thought. He had a sentimental streak he couldn't quite shake. A nice thing as a person, but a weakness as a man of power. That's why she knew it would eventually hamstring him. It was the same with how he treated the quack doctor. Mama realizes that Jinshi tended to sell his own abilities short. I mean, he managed to do things, but he just took too much upon himself. Things would go so much better for him if he could let certain things go. Yet instead, he continued to reach out. The more he thought he could help, the more he got involved until he was spread too thin. I know someone like that. Mama thought of the person she was always chasing after. He too spent himself in the service of others. He was the man Mama respected more than anyone. The person, of course, was Lumen. And then she thinks that it's probably her fault the quack doctor got mixed up in all this. As a few chapters back, when she doubted why they had done the body double thing, she wondered who had they done it for. If anything happened to my old man, who would take it the hardest? The freak strategist or her? The answer was her, obviously. Mama was the one who would be most devastated if Lumen was in danger. In short, Jinshi had proven himself to be a kind-hearted politician, yet still naive. That's why he was able to be such a complete ass. Why had he done something so idiotic? These are all her thoughts, by the way. And even though I can see that she's annoyed, somewhere between the lines, I feel like maybe her annoyance comes from her own care for him. Still, I love how she begins to understand him just a little more and how he lets her see this side of him.
Please don't go. Keep me warm. Just a while longer.
Also, back then, Empress Gyokyo had said to Maomao, "You're half responsible for this." Now she gets it, that Jinshi had a strong sense of duty. Though she might have expected him to be less impulsive, she might have thought that he could at least wait until the two princes were a little older, but it turned out that he couldn't. Some people just have the weirdest taste, she thought for the millionth time. Jinshi sometimes seemed to like creatures with a strange disposition. The unworldly little master had found himself unable to find a new toy among all the people around him. Like a baby chick, he imprinted on a single toy, and it became his whole world. Mama thinks that if she's just a thing to him, then he should treat her like one and order her around. But the naive child was unable to do that, and had chosen a crueler method instead, which left Mama feeling annoyed and frustrated. Soon when Fuyu and her husband left, Suiren gave Mama a gentle push, asking her to step forward. "I see, you wanted me to know what become of Lady Fuyu," Mama said, bowing to Jinshi. "Not as such, I simply thought it might benefit you to be aware, since I did ask you for your help with her." He replied, "Yes, sir, I admit. I feel somewhat better having seen this," she said, glancing around. She couldn't shake the sense that Jinshi was trying to be thoughtful toward her. "Alright, time to play the game," she thought, and looked over at the balcony. "This is quite a luxurious room. It even has a balcony," she said. "You like it? Feel free to go out and have a look," Jinshi said. "If I may then." She went straight for it. From the corner of her eye, she saw Gaoshun trying to stop her, but she saw Jinshi holding him back. And when she stepped out onto the balcony, her first thought was that it would be a perfect place to be assassinated by an arrow or a gun FIFA. But that wasn't the case, as there were too many trees around. And because it was safe, no one followed Jinshi when he stepped out onto the balcony with her. Taomei, Gaoshun's wife, was saying something to him, and it was clear to Mama that he was no match for her. Out of the scene, but if you don't know, the whole Ma clan is like a bodyguard for the royal family, and Taomei is the head of the clan. So basically, they were set up to have some alone time with each other. And after a small chat, Mama said, "Master Jinshi, please be careful tonight, as every night." This was because there was always a risk that some woman might try to invite herself into his bed. "I never can guess what you're going to say next," Jinshi said, leaning against a wall. "Surely you can imagine what I mean, sir. Just think back to your nights at the Rare Palace," Mama reminded him, and he groaned, looking upset. So he did have some idea what she meant. He looked at her like he had something to say, but he couldn't get it out. Finally, he managed, saying that since the Princess Fuyu had gone home to Anan, the king's niece would be entering the Rare Palace in exchange. Not just that, Empress Gyokyo's niece would also enter the palace. In simple words, he was worried about the Rare Palace when it was no longer his job. That's why Mama pressed on. "I heard that, sir. Interesting that you have, though. Remind me who it was that ran away from the Rare Palace." Then she adds, "You're no longer Jinshi, Master Jinshi, and I think it would be best if you stop troubling yourself about the rare palace forever and focus on your own work." I would agree, but it turns out I can't seem to cut myself off completely, he replied, and Mama looked at him unimpressed. He managed to meet her gaze, but he didn't look very comfortable. That's when Mama found herself angry again. "Master Jinshi, you're a man of power. I think it's time you behave like it." "I know," he said slowly. She went on, "You should use the things that are available to you to use." "I am," he replied again. In that case, Mama stepped up to him and smirked, standing on her tiptoes to look at him right in the face. She slammed her right hand against the wall, effectively trapping him. His eyes went wide. I can't say I enjoyed being used. However, half-assed attempts at being nice are far greater nuisance. I'd much rather be a useful tool than a meaningless burden. Your hesitation is the country's hesitation, and a moment's indecision on your part could mean the deaths of tens of thousands of your subjects. I know you'll only regret that, so you might as well pick a path and throw yourself headlong down it. Finally, she leaned away from him. If you're going to use something, then use it. Medicine doesn't work unless you take it. She closed her eyes and let out a sigh. Everything she had pent up inside her come pouring out of her mouth. And this whole scene isn't just development for them as a couple. I think Mama herself has grown. She clearly tells him that she doesn't want to be a burden, and that if he is going to use her, he should do it properly. In her mind, she was no princess. She was a common apothecary. If he was going to pull her strings, then it was better he just go ahead and do it. He should use her until she fell apart. Then she thought that if she could escape all of it, of course she would have liked to, but she wasn't going to cut off her nose to spite her face. However, Jinshi wasn't like that, and soon Mama will know it all too well. Also, I wonder that if all this was annoying to her because she doesn't want to be a burden, or want him to end up like Lumin, or was it because she doesn't know what to do when Jinshi acts this way toward her? Then she discovered, though, that there was something else behind her boiling anger. And that's when we see this beautiful side of her. As her hand went to Jinshi's cheek, and she said, "You're only human, Master Jinshi. You're not some mythical immortal who can save everyone." She held his face in her hand, the fingers of her left hand brushing his scar. "You can be wounded, scarred, brought low. Only human." Who was she talking to? She knew Jinshi was standing in front of her, but for some reason, she kept seeing Lumin's face. No wonder I'm so upset, she thought. The principle that drove Jinshi's behavior seemed very similar to Lumin's. She was afraid that if he went on like this, he would end up just as luckless in life as her old man. Just like Pops, he'd spent himself trying to rescue everyone and everything, like a fool. He should have wanted more, been greedier, but instead he suffered his fate patiently. This was Momo's one and only criticism of her father. She thought, would Jinshi end up like him one day? Then she says, "Please, please don't go doing anything else like burning a brand into your skin." To which Jinshi replied, "I heard you the first several times." "Are you sure?" A smile flickered across Momo's face and she slowly pulled her hand away. Except they didn't leave his cheeks. Jinshi held them there. "Please let me go, sir," she said. "Don't want to." He sounded like a child. It was something he did sometimes, restoring to childlike language. "I'd like to be going back soon," she said. "Just a few more minutes," he pleaded. Master Gaoshun must be beside himself. She tried to reason with him, but then he said, "Then just rejuvenate me a bit." "Rejuvenate?" Mama asked. He let go of her hands and spread his arms wide. Oh no, is he coming in for a hug? She was just about to tell him that she would do no such a thing, but the outstretched arms didn't reach for her. Instead, they shifted, so that they appeared to be ready to receive something. "What exactly do you want?" Mama asked. "I wanted a hug, but I thought at this moment perhaps I need something else." Jinshi scratched his cheek, the one without a scar. "Vigor, help me out," he said. "You want me to slap you?" Mama was shocked. "As hard as you can. The way you slapped that lady in waiting at the Crystal Pavilion." His eyes were sparkling. What the hell was she supposed to do now? And what was he doing remembering her worst possible moments? Have you already forgotten what I said? She just warned him not to do anything like that brand again. And hardly a minute later, here he was engaging in more self-destructive behavior. I understand, he said. This won't leave a scar. It will leave a mark, Mama said, and she would be the one who will get in trouble later. They trusted her enough to leave her alone with him. She couldn't betray that. Please, he begged. I can't. I'm asking you. Jinshi slumped to his knees. There is no one who can tell me what to do anymore. He almost spat. Gaoshun and Suren could scold him all they wanted, but they were still, in the end, his servants. The only person who could contradict Jinshi to his face would be the emperor. Maomao could only sigh. Fine, close your eyes, she said, and Jinshi responded with a thank you. Then she pulled her hand back and slapped Jinshi across the face. It was not quiet. Jinshi sucked in a breath and was about to open his eyes, so Mama placed her hand gently over his eyelids. Let me see it, she said. Even her hand hurt, so Jinshi's cheek must be burning. She could even see the flush raising in it. Suren would never miss that, she thought. Then Mama recalled a rhyme her older sister, Paren, had used on her. Pain, pain, go away. Then she kissed the reddened cheek ever so gently. Her lips were colder than her fingertips and made the cheek feel that much hotter. I know a children's verse can't actually work. It was funny though, that somehow the cheek looked less red than before. Nah, that can't be, she thought, and it wasn't. Rather, Jinshi's entire body was redder than it had been. Mama lifted her hand off his eyes. He couldn't quite look at her in the eye, but his hands held hers firmly. He called her name and she answers, drawing away slightly. The other side too, please. He pointed at his right cheek, the one with the scar. Mama scowled at him and said, absolutely not, sir. And that was the whole scene. Now there could be different views on this, but what I get is that from here on, Mama starts to grow more and more soft for him, as he has entered her respect, love, and care spectrum. And it only takes her 3 volumes and a push from Chewie to finally accept her feelings for him. But for now, she wasn't sure what she was feeling. As later in the epilogue, Mama puts a hand to her lips, thinking why would she do that? She knew perfectly well that children's charms didn't have any medical effect. Still, she treated Jinshi like a child who could be deluded by a little charm. The one silver lining was that the people in the room hadn't appeared to have heard anything. Mama had been worried about what would happen if Suren, Taomei, or Gaoshun had heard them. Yet only Chewie had displayed any interest. As for Jinshi's request that she slap the other side too, he just needed something to wake him up. It definitely wasn't a messages thing, he explained, and surely we believe him. But what else was Mama supposed to think when he had that look on his face?
Masochist.
Also, his story for the red mark on his face was that he had given himself a good hard slap just before coming back into the room. Suren and the other were shocked, but he simply chuckled and explained, I just needed to make sure I was good and alert. Mama had remained absolutely silent. It was all she could do. After some time, they reached the Western capital again, and Volume 9 ends, just like this video. I wanted to add more things, but I would probably bore you with all these long videos. So thank you for listening to me. Take care of yourself and goodbye.
You'll never be the same. I don't really wanna hurt you, but I can't control the pain. If you're sticking by my side, maybe we could be okay. Okay, maybe you could be the change.